or how to understand about the way people make decisions in a society and its effects on economy. Herbert Alexander Simon was born in Milwaukee, USA on June 50, 1916. He died on February 19, 2001 in Pittsburgh, USA. Simon excelled as a student, joining a variety of extracurricular clubs and reading extensively. He enrolled at the University of Chicago in 1933, aiming to study mathematics and the social sciences. By age 19, he had already decided to focus on the science of making decisions. Simon majored in political science and took many economics courses, befriending Harold Gutzkow and William W. Cooper along the way. His father, an electrical engineer, had come to the United States in 1903 after earning his engineering diploma at the Technische Hochschule of Darmstadt, Germany. He was an inventor and designer of electrical control gear, later also a patent attorney, an active leader in professional and civic affairs. His mother, an accomplished pianist, was a third-generation American, her forebears having been 48ers who immigrated from Prague and Cologne. Among his European ancestors were piano builders, goldsmiths, and vintners, but no professionals of any kind. The Merkels in Cologne were Lutherans, the Goldschmidts in Prague, and the Simons in Ebersheim, Jews. Until well going in his high school years, his interests were quite dispersed, although they were increasingly directed toward science. For most adolescents, science means physics, mathematics, chemistry, or biology. Those are the subjects to which they are exposed in school. The idea that human behavior may be studied scientifically is never hinted until much later in the educational process. It was certainly not conveyed by history or civics courses as they were then taught. By the time he was ready to enter the University of Chicago in 1933, he had a general sense of direction. The social sciences needed the same kind of rigor and the same mathematical underpinnings that had made the hard sciences so brilliantly successful. He would prepare himself to become a mathematical social scientist. By a combination of formal training and self-study, the latter continuing systematically well into the 1940s, he was able to gain a broad base of knowledge in economics and political science, together with reasonable skills in advanced mathematics, symbolic logic, and mathematical statistics. About 1968, in the United States, the social and behavioral sciences were given a full seat in the National Academy of Sciences. The decisions to take these steps were acknowledgments that all the great problems that face the world today have both technical and human content, the one intermingled inseparably with the other. In his banquet speech at Nobel ceremony, Simon said, "To deal with these problems of world population and hunger, of peace, of energy and mineral resources, of environmental pollution, of poverty, we must broaden and deepen our knowledge of nature's laws, and we must broaden and deepen our understanding of the laws of human behavior, and we must do this in the spirit of deep concern for human values that is symbolized by the presence here also of the domain of literature." I want to share 3 statements Simon produced which seemed to me to be very important to understand his work. Quote, "What information consumes is rather obvious. It consumes the attention of its recipients. Hence a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention and a need to allocate the attention efficiently among the overabundance of information sources that might consume it." End of quote. Quote, "There are no morals about technology at all. Technology expands our ways of thinking about things, expands our ways of doing things. If we're bad people, we use technology for bad purposes, and if we're good people, we use it for good purposes." End of quote. Quote, "The situation has provided a queue. This queue has given the expert access to information stored in memory, and the information provides the answer. Intuition is nothing more and nothing less than recognition." End of quote. Simon's scientific output goes far beyond the disciplines in which he has held professorships: political science, administration, psychology, and information sciences. He has made contributions in, among other fields, science theory, applied mathematical statistics, operations analysis, economics, and business administration. He is most of all an economist in the widest sense of that word, and his name is associated, most of all, with publications on structure and decision-making within economic organizations, a relatively new area of economic research. Influenced by the organizational research that was being conducted in other social sciences, however, economists in the 1930s began to look at the structure of companies and at the decision-making process in an entirely new way. Simon's work was of the utmost importance for this new line of development. In his epoch-making book, Administrative Behavior, 1947, and in a number of subsequent works, he described the company as an adaptive system of physical, personal, and social components that are held together by a network of intercommunications and by the willingness of its members to cooperate and to strive towards a common goal. What is new in Simon's idea is most of all that he rejects the assumption made in the classic theory of the firm of an omniscient, rational, profit-maximizing entrepreneur. He replaces this entrepreneur by a number of cooperating decision-makers whose capacities for rational action are limited, both by a lack of knowledge about the total consequences of their decisions and by personal and social ties. Since these decision-makers cannot choose the best alternative as can the classic entrepreneur, they have to be content with a satisfactory alternative. Individual companies, therefore, strive not to maximize profits, but to find acceptable solutions to acute problems. This might mean that a number of partially contradictory goals have to be reached at the same time. Each decision-maker in such a company attempts to find a satisfactory solution to his own set of problems, taking into consideration how others are solving theirs. Simon's theories and observations about decision-making in organizations apply very well to the systems and techniques of planning, budgeting, and control that are used in modern business and public administration. These theories are less elegant and less suited to overall economic analysis than is the classic profit-maximizing theory, but they provide greater possibilities for understanding and predictions in a number of areas. They have been used successfully to explain and predict such diverse activities as the distribution of access to information and decision-making within companies, market adjustment to limited competition, choosing investment portfolios and choosing a country in which to establish a foreign investment. Modern business economics and administrative research are largely based on Simon's ideas. Some of the major contributions of Herbert Simon towards management are as follows. First, concept of organization. 2, decision-making. 3, bounded rationality. 4, administrative man. 5, organizational communication. His contributions cover both social systems and decision theory approaches, more particularly the latter. Simon examined the principles of management given by Herbert and Guthlick and found them contradictory and ambiguous. He described these principles as myths, slogans, and homely proverbs. Simon looked at organizational problems in totality of socio-psychological context and viewed that decision-making takes place in this context. Concept of organization. Simon had described an organization as a complex network of decisional processes, all pointed towards their influence upon the behavior of the operatives. He has viewed the organization containing distribution and allocation of decision-making functions. According to him, physiology of the organization is to be found in the process whereby organization influences the decisions of its members, supplying these decisions with their devices. Thus, the best way to analyze an organization is to find out where and by whom decisions are made. Decision-making. Perhaps the greatest contribution of Simon is in the field of decision-making. Decision-making is the core of management, and management is synonymous with decision-making. This is why he has been referred to as a decision theorist. According to him, the decision process can be broken into a series of 3 sequential steps. These are, first, intelligent activity, the initial phase of searching the environment for conditions calling for decisions. 2, design activity the phase of inventing, developing, and analyzing possible cause of action to take place. And 3. Choice activity, the final phase of actual choice, selecting a particular cause of action from those available. Bounded rationality. Simon is of view that man is not completely rational. He has criticized the theories which are based on the assumptions of complete rationality. He has advocated the principle of bounded rationality. Accordingly, managers do not go for maximum satisfaction of a decision, but are satisfied with good enough satisfaction from a decision. Managers cannot maximize on account of various limitations and constraints. A decision is irrational for achieving the desired ends. Appropriate means are adopted. However, it is not easy to separate the ends from the means because of ends-means chain. This ends-means chain is seldom an integrated or completely integrated one. The relationship between organizational activities and ultimate objectives is also not dear. Moreover, a simple end-means chain analysis may not help in reaching accurate conclusion because what is an end at one point of time or at one level of organization may be a means at the other time or at other level of organization. Administrative man. Simon has given the concept of administrative man as the model of decision-making. The model is based on the following assumptions. First, administrative man adopts satisfaction approach in decision-making rather than the maximizing approach of economic man. Second, he perceives the world as a simplified model of real world. Thus, he remains content with simplification. Third, he can make his choice without first determining all possible alternatives and without screening that these are in fact all the alternatives. Fourth, he is able to make decisions with relatively simple rule of thumb or tricks of trade or force of habit. The administrative man model describes the decision-making process of Menger's charity, then alternative thereby of economic man. Organizational communication. Simon has emphasized the role of communication in organization. According to him, there are 3 stages in the communication process: initiation, transmittal, and receipt of information. There may be blockade of communication at any of these 3 stages. In order to overcome the problem of communication, he has emphasized the role of informal communication and has attached less importance to the formal network of authority. Artificial intelligence and cognitive psychology. Considered a pioneer in artificial intelligence, AI, he used the computer as a tool for both simulating human thought and augmenting it with AI. In 1956, Simon and his colleague Alan Newell produced the first running artificial intelligence program, called The Logic Theorist, which proved several theorems of symbolic logic in Whitehead and Russell's Principia Mathematica. He also played a large role in the development of cognitive psychology. His verbal protocol analysis offered a way for psychologists to investigate mental operations. Dr. Simon's research ranged from computer science to psychology, administration, and economics. The thread of continuity through all of his work was his interest in human decision-making and problem-solving processes and the implications of these processes for social institutions. Dr. Simon was widely considered to be a founder of the field of artificial intelligence. Herbert Simon combined different scientific disciplines and considered new factors in economic theories. Established economic theories held that the enterprises and entrepreneurs all acted in completely irrational ways, with the maximization of their own profit as their only goal. In contrast, Simon held that when making choices, all people deviate from the strictly rational and described companies as adaptable systems with physical, personal, and social components. Through these perspectives, he was able to write about decision-making processes in modern society in an entirely new way. And we know we are affected by those decisions. So now you can have a better perspective of his importance.